It's your home for the first reaction and analysis after the Dogs play. This is DawgNation Postgame, brought to you by ServPro, Royal Caribbean, and Georgia Spa Company. Now live from the UGA Bookstore in Athens, here's your host, Brandon
Welcome,
Adams.
everybody, to our DawgNation Postgame Show. I'm Brandon Adams, and we are live here at the UGA Bookstore. I will tell you, got a little bit of a voice thing today, and I apologize for that. We're going to soldier through and talk about what was, if you want to find a word to sum it up, a 28-6 lackluster win for Georgia against Austin Peay today. The seminal moment perhaps coming at the end of the first half when Georgia has, 4 plays, or the chance at 4 plays at the goal line, fails to score there. First half comes to an end. Then we go through a long weather delay, finally resume action. Georgia then adds to its lead to build some margin, but ultimately for a team that came in excess of a 40-point favorite, this was not the performance the Georgia fans were hoping to see, especially in the role of final tune-up game before Georgia plays at Tennessee this week. Tennessee dominant in its win today against East Tennessee State, putting up a large number of points. Georgia, by comparison, struggling to do anything close to that today. Let's go through the good and the bad. We're going to hear from Rodrigo Blankenship here live from the UGA Bookstore, where he called the Dogs out in the center of the field today, had a chance to sign autographs before the game. It'll be great to hear from Rodrigo Blankenship coming up in a couple of moments' time. The good, the bad for me, if you want to start with the positives, I think the trio of running backs between Dwight, Phillips, Chauncey Bowens, Nate Frazier, who both had 2 touchdowns each, that is starting to take shape into something that I think that Georgia wants to build its offense around. Now, obviously, the caveat with that is that Nate Frazier did have the fumble in the early state on the first possession of the game for Georgia, and you clearly can't have that. And that's certainly something I'm sure that Frazier got plenty of an earful on, and I'm sure that Kirby Smart will also be talking about in his post-game press conference. But if you wanted to see Georgia establish more on the ground today was the day that you were able to do that. Now, the Georgia defense also put forth another outstanding effort, especially late in the game with scoring opportunities for Austin Peay. The Georgia defense prevented that from happening, and I see our guy Rodrigo Blankenship is going to come over and join us here right now. We'll bring Rodrigo on and get him going here. Rodrigo, we got you a headset and microphone right here, so feel free to jump on. We'll get going. So I think there was some stuff to like about the Georgia defense here today. But obviously the Georgia passing attack, that probably left a lot to be desired. Unfortunately, you're talking about a statistical day for Gunnar Stockton that from a passing yard standpoint maybe doesn't look too bad. But obviously if we go back to yards per attempt, a number that we cited last week, that one maybe not quite everything you would have wanted it to be today, and there were some miscues and a chance at maybe more points that just weren't able to be put together. So ultimately, Georgia wins, never really had to sweat, at least in the second half, once we finally got back to football, but probably not as many style points today as Georgia fans were hoping for. So if you want to wait on this, we'll give you a chance to do that. You can click the link, whatever platform you're watching. You can join us via Zoom. You can also give us a call. We'll take your phone calls today, 678-645-DAWG. That's D-A-W-G. 678-645-DAWG, D-A-W-G. You can be a part of the show. And if you're gathering with us here at the UGA Bookstore, we'll get as many of you onto the show today as we can if you'd like to be a part of that there as well. So, Rodrigo, coming in here, first of all, it's great to have you in person today. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
So let me start with what I thought was a great thing today. How did it feel? I don't know if you've done this before. I'm sure you probably have. Microphone in your hand, 50-yard line before the game. You got your chance to call the Dogs. How did that feel?
Yeah, that was an incredible experience. Great to be back here in Sanford between the hedges to watch us take on Austin Peay. Second time being able to call the Dogs, and it gets sweeter every single time. So great to be back here. Great to get to experience this awesome crowd and get to see another Dogs win.
And by the way, I'll also tell you this. We're live here at the UGA Bookstore before the game today. Rodrigo Blankenship among the many UGA athletes, both current and former, that were signing autographs here. So not only is the UGA Bookstore a great place to get your UGA apparel, whether it's Peter Millar or the Nike coaches gear, Vineyard Vines, now Onward Reserve, all of those really famous makers that make him this good-looking UGA apparel. Not only can you find that here, great autograph guest each week, a chance to meet some of your favorite former Dogs of the past. You can do that with Rodrigo Blankenship and players like that each week here at the UGA Bookstore. And I'm sure, Rodrigo, you had a great time with Georgia fans today. But as far as the game itself goes, what did you see from Georgia here today?
I I know that we talked a lot last week about wanting to see a fast start. We got off to a really fast start last week. Didn't really see that this week. Had a turnover on our first offensive possession, and that really kind of killed the flow right from the jump. So I know that Georgia fans would really like to see us get back to having those fast starts, especially when we're going to be playing SEC competition next week with Tennessee. So we need to take care of the ball a lot better than we did today. The turnovers are not going to be they're not going to allow us to have success long term. So I'd really like to see us take care of the football better. I'd like to see a little bit more effective pass rush from the defense. I think we had 1 sack today. So I'd like to see a little bit more pass rush, getting into the backfield and getting to the quarterback. There were some good things that we saw. I thought that we ran the ball well. We had rushing attack by committee today, had several rushers get some touches, and were effective on the ground. I know, as you mentioned earlier, Gunnar Stockton was very efficient, just looking at his completion percentage, but didn't really have a whole lot of downfield attempts. And maybe some of that is by design. We're not trying to give away too much as we get into these more difficult opponents. We want to kind of keep our cards close to our chest, but hopefully we get to see that pass game open up and take some more downfield shots next week. Yeah,
you've played in the NFL. The thing I compared it to is, you go back years ago, the NFL used to have the 4th preseason game. Now it's just 3, and the NFL approaches preseason different than it used to, but there was a time in which your 3rd preseason game was almost the dress rehearsal. Starters played all the way through the first half, and then when there was 4 preseason games, the 4th almost felt like, well, now the roster's set. We're just going to get through this and get ready to start the season. And I'm not looking to excuse make for some things I think that Georgia could have done better today. I'm really not. But I said going into today, I almost wonder if this doesn't take on the feel of this is your 4th preseason game, your final tune-up before obviously a big step up in competition next week against Tennessee, and maybe there might not be too much to read into this game one way or another. As a Georgia fan, as someone who wants Georgia to win games, I hope that's true, because obviously if you did read too much into this, you might not read all pleasant things for Georgia, but ultimately, this team's going to be judged by how it plays next Saturday more so than whatever happened today, with a final margin of victory that wasn't as impressive as some fans wanted.
Yeah, I think that we would have liked to see a little bit more fireworks on offense, but it's okay. Really, I think if we're going to be fundamentally sound today, that's something that I think we really needed to place a lot of importance on. Like I said, the turnovers are a little bit of an issue, so hopefully we can get those cleaned up. I think that a lot of fans were maybe hoping to see the offensive line dominate a little bit more than they did today, just not having the same level of competition that we're going to be seeing in the next few weeks. A little bit smaller, a little bit lighter guys on the opposing defensive line. Would have been nice to maybe see them kind of bully those guys a little bit more than we did today. But, as you said, we don't want to look too far into it. We had some external factors that kind of threw off the rhythm and the flow of the game with the weather delay at halftime. So hopefully when we get into our Tennessee game next week, everyone's going to have their chin straps buckled and ready to go and bring their best.
I want to ask you more about the offensive line in a moment. I thought there was a big story in the game. Let's also hear from Georgia fans as well. Come on in here so folks can see you. Remind us of your name and tell us what you thought about the game today.
Hey, my name is Landon. I think it was a great day in Athens, even though it was a little bit of a slow start.
Did you guys stay all the way through the rain?
We did not. We went back to go tailgate, and then we came back.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. So you left the stadium and then came back in?
Yes.
And listen, to me, that's the smart way to do it. You're allowed to leave. You might as well step away for a while, go get dry, maybe get some food, and come on back in the stadium after that. From my standpoint, Rodrigo, that's a pretty good way to do it.
Absolutely.
So what else do you think about the game today?
I think a lot of it was missed opportunity. We had that tipped interception from Ellis Robinson, and I think we didn't capitalize on that good field position, which was very unfortunate. And I think a big problem that we need to address is ball security with the fumble from Lennon Humphreys and Nate Fraser. Just missed opportunity on the offense. But I think we did good with that goal line stop. That was very impressive, even though they got all the way down there. One thing defensively I really would like us to fix is explosive plays, because we saw a couple of those
Their quarterback was really accurate, wasn't he?
He was, indeed. He was. I just didn't like seeing those busted coverages, but, I think we did a good job stopping the run a little bit. But I
think it's a great call. Thanks for being a part of the show. I really appreciate that. So, Rodrigo, I appreciate it. Rodrigo, I'll tell you that right there is what I like on a day like today, because I think it's important to balance the good with the bad, and you heard the balance there on that. First of all, if you want to focus on one of the positives, Ellis Robinson getting an interception here today. We'd kind of called for that Friday on DawgNation Daily to say, hey, if Georgia wants to force more turnovers, a guy like Robinson, who we think has some ball skills, he'd be a great guy to do that. Today that happened. So that's certainly one of the positives. And the flip side of that, also mentioning there, it's a Nate Fraser fumble that results in a turnover. It's a London Humphreys fumble that results in a turnover. So you can find good things to praise and some things you'd like to see cleared up too.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to take the good with the bad. Hopefully we can be a little bit more optimistic as best as possible in our evaluation of today. Had a little bit of weather that may have affected the ball handling a little bit, so we want to take that into consideration as well. But yeah, great points by the fan. We have some good, have some bad. Have to take it all in. At the end of the day, the Dogs won the game. Did some good things that we can hang our hat on and hopefully take into next week.
And speaking of the secondary, first of all, in the case of Ellis Robbins, started game one, did not start today, but obviously was a part of the rotation. As a player yourself, when you have that young guy that has the look of potentially being, now he's still a work in progress, as so many players are on the Georgia roster, but has the potential to be what we think of as the lockdown corner, the playmaking corner that can force the turnover. How much of a lift does that give the team when you have a guy that could be what Ellis Robinson has the potential to be?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be great for the team. I think that when you look at the Georgia secondary, I think everyone wants to look at KJ Bolden and be like, this is our guy. This is our big playmaker. He's a guy that we can depend on to be really great in pass coverage and give us big plays when we need it. But you need the whole secondary to step up as a unit. You need everybody acting together. And when we get new guys like Ellis Robinson that step up, get an interception today, I've been in plenty of defensive meeting rooms, and the expression is always tips and overthrows. Got to get those. And so we got the deflection, got the interception there with the ball in the air. And so when you get a guy making a play, Ellis Robinson stepping up, a guy that we think has a lot of potential, finally starting to see some of that realized, it's really great to see moving forward.
And to add to that, Dalen Everett, who was in uniform last Saturday, did not play, was starting today, and by my eyes, I don't have obviously the full snap count in front of me, but by my eyes, seem to be playing a pretty good bit. So maybe that's also a good sign, because we know the Josh Heupel Tennessee offense wants to spread you out from one side of the field to the other. So getting a healthy Dalen Everett back, getting some much-needed experience from some young guys, that Georgia secondary are going to be tested in a big way next Saturday against Tennessee. So if this is a sign that Everett's now coming back to health, that's only good news for UGA.
Absolutely. Hopefully our secondary is trending in the right direction. As you said, next week is going to be a really big test, and I'm excited to see how these guys are going to respond.
We'll bring in some more Georgia fans and get them going here. We'll also get some calls going here, too. We're getting those lined up. Good to see a great collection of Georgia fans here, and obviously we love hearing your thoughts. Remind folks of your name, and then tell us what you thought about the game today.
Hey, I'm Craig out of Warner Robins, and I'm going to need you to make some more predictions, because you predicted we'd have an early start last week, and then you predicted the interception from Ellis Robinson today.
That's exactly right. I'm glad that you remembered that, because I was hoping somebody would, because we did call for that on Friday. Craig, I'm glad to know you remembered that.
Well, what I'd like for you to do is just continue to make more positive predictions like that, because they seem to come true. So if you would just do that, that'd be great. No, I thought about the game today. I felt like, like my son said, I really liked the goal line stand, and then I think there was probably 8 or 10 plays. It was forever down there inside the 10, and I felt like we bowed up when we needed to. I do think we left a few guys open, a couple of missed assignments on defense on occasion. Most of the time, though, the defense bailed us out. We can't have that next week, obviously, against Tennessee. They scored, I think, 70-plus today. So we're going to have to kind of tighten those things up. But I'd love to see you, Hot Rod. It's great to see you in person. You made a lot of history here at Sanford Stadium and everywhere all around the United States, and so it's great to see you, and thanks for what you did for the Dogs.
By the way, do Georgia fans feel the same way? You glad to see Hot Rodrigo Blankenship here tonight? Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Rodrigo. Absolutely. Hey, remind us your name again.
Abigail.
Abigail, did you have a good time?
Yeah.
Abigail, can I tell you this? I love your earrings. Those look sharp. My daughter would love to have those, too. So I'm glad to have you here. And, Craig, great stuff. Really appreciate that. Absolutely.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you guys.
Yeah, you love to hear Georgia fans weighing in on all of that. Rodrigo, you mentioned the offensive line a little earlier. So today, and we expected this. We saw some shuffling. You saw Josh Jackson get the start. Ernest Green does not play, dealing with what Kirby Smart has called lower body stiffness. We interpret that to mean back. Probably is. I saw Juan Gaston before the game entering the stadium well before the dog walk, an indication that he would likely not play. And so you saw a little bit of a rotation that included Dontrell Glover getting into guard, Michael Weenie, obviously. Weenie even kicked out at tackle at one point in time today. So I think one of the issues for the Georgia offensive line that, running game-wise, the stats for that don't look too bad. There's obviously getting stuffed a couple of times on that final possession of the first half. I would say that overall it looked like a group, to my eye, that looked to be a little out of rhythm maybe, but also much like the story was a year ago, with so many moving pieces and trying to figure out who's the 5 that are healthy enough to play, for a group that depends on chemistry to play well together, maybe still trying to feel their way through all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. With the O-line having a little bit of shuffling, as you said, we need to make sure that we have that chemistry. We need to make sure that everybody is on the same page. So when you have some new guys slotted in there, as you mentioned, we've got some guys in new positions today as well that they're not usually accustomed to. All of that may lead to things just being a little bit off, a little bit out of sync. But, as we talked about, the rushing looked really good today. There were a few instances where I think that Gunner was kind of flushed out of the pocket on some passing plays, and so you're going to want to make sure that you get back in the film room and clean those things up, especially when we get to Tennessee. Those defensive linemen are going to be bigger, stronger, faster than the guys that we saw today, so they're really going to have to bring their A game for next week.
So if you're here and you want to be on the show, if you want to line up right over here, we'll get you on as quickly as we can. Also, to the phones we go as well, 678-645-DAWG. That's 678-645-DAWG. Or click the link in the chat if you're watching the show live right now. We'd love to hear from you. Joseph and Griffin. Joseph, you're next up tonight on our DawgNation Postgame call-in show. Joseph, we're glad to have you here. What'd you think of tonight? 28-6, Georgia beats Austin Peay.
Hey, B.A., hey, Hot Rod, nice seeing y'all again, man. We like y'all, like Hot Rod was saying, our running game was good, somewhat, except for that goal line stand. We should have punched it in, and like y'all been saying too, our offensive line shuttled it in and out. But next week gonna be a real test for us. We can't play like this next week. Kirby better take them to the lab. Have that bloody Tuesday, as you know, Hot Rod, and we need to get that fire, passion, and energy. Because we got buckle our chin strap and pull up our jock strap. Because we're gonna be in for a hot time up there in Knoxville.
Joseph, I think it's a great call, and I appreciate you being here. And Rodrigo, you've got the experience of playing in Neyland Stadium, obviously in 2017. Big win for your program there. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of these young guys getting ready to go into a truly hostile environment for the first time, what's that going to be like?
It's going to be an experience like I think a lot of these guys have never had before. I remember when we went to Tennessee in 2017, packed out stadium, a lot of excitement and hype for the Tennessee program going into that year, and it was one of the loudest environments I've ever been in, along with Death Valley and LSU. And I remember not being able to hear myself think getting ready for the opening kickoff in that game. So it's going to be a crazy environment. Coach Smart, I'm sure, is going to have the music blasting, full go. Rocky Top is going to be playing, and the entire campus is going to hear it this week because he's got to do everything possible to get these guys ready for this environment.
The other thing that Joseph brings up, and I have to be honest about this, I couldn't look y'all in the eye through the camera if I wasn't candid with you. I love Georgia football. I love every minute of the season. But when this first half came to a close the way that it did, and then just like that, it's a lightning delay that seemed to last forever. I got to tell you, for a good while tonight, I was pretty miserable. I just have to be honest with you. Georgia's not playing well. The weather's terrible. Thankfully, it got a little better in the second half. But there was a moment right there around halftime where I have to confess, like a lot of Georgia fans, I probably wasn't having a great time.
Yeah, I think that sequence at the end of the first half when we're inside the 5-yard line, I definitely think that there's going to be a lot of questions raised about the play calling where we have some quick passing plays attempted there, but then we try and run it in when we've only got about 4 seconds left. And the previous couple passing plays had only taken maybe 3 seconds apiece. They're quick hitting. It's either a touchdown or it's incomplete. And with 4 seconds left, I believe it was still third down as well. If you try one more pass attempt, you might, even if you don't complete the pass, you might still have 1 second left on the clock and get to try a field goal to go into halftime. So I think that they're probably going to go back and look at that as a coaching staff and probably say, hey, we probably could have handled this a little bit better than we did going into halftime and maybe take it into the locker room on a little bit higher note than we did.
And to my eyes, it seemed like that was the shakiest moment for the offensive line. Second half, it feels like, and maybe someone will correct me on this, we saw more of Bo Hughley coming in and playing offensive tackle, and to my eyes anyway, felt like the offensive line may have stabilized with Hughley in the game. We'll obviously evaluate that more as we go throughout the week. Hearing from Georgia fans here right now. First of all, great to have you back with us. Remind folks of your name, and then tell us what you thought of the game today.
I'm Zach Clifton from Ranger, Georgia.
Zach, I appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. BA, I watch it all the time. I love it, brother.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
We say through the rain delay, try to tough it out. My big question, and I hate to be this guy, I really do. Do we have a? I don't want to say it. It's like a no-no. Do we have a Bobo problem? The screenplays are absolutely ridiculous. We've got Gunner. He's a proven gunslinger. We know. We watched him at Raven County. He can sling the ball. Talon Taylor, first drive, takes it for 20 yards. Okay, and I know we want to run the ball. Kirby established that. Preseason, we want to run the ball. We're a running team. Can we beat Tennessee with the screenplays? Are we saving the playbook for Tennessee, or is this what we got?
So I think you bring up a lot of great points, and I'm going to respond. I'm going to let Rodrigo respond, and you can tell me what you think since we're all standing here together. So I don't think what you're asking is unfair, but here's what my response is. I feel like we're about to see a full NFL Sunday tomorrow. I feel like in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes the last few years has been a good example of this. You see a lot of quarterbacks, even quarterbacks that we think of as great, they throw short a lot. So in the first half, Stockton connects on his first 10 passes, mostly short throws where guys were given some chance to make a play happen and make a guy miss. And for the most part, they kind of did that. So that's a lot of short throws, which you might think of as wide receiver screens. What you would like to then see is a few moments in which then you add in some deeper throws to go with that. Now, that wasn't really there today. My question would be, was that because it wasn't called, or was that, and just sitting with some folks in the press box, a couple of moments in which Stockton maybe had the chance to pull the trigger and didn't? Or in the second half, and I forget the down and distance and the time, but there's a deep throw to Dylan Bell in which Stockton really did not. And listen, I'm a Gunner fan. I think everybody understands that. But in this particular case, Stockton was not on the money. So I don't know if I would put this as much on Bobo. I understand the question. Georgia didn't score enough points. So I get the question. I really do. But I wonder how much of this was, hey, maybe you just got to connect on a couple of deeper throws. And if you connect on a couple of those, it makes everything feel different. Rodrigo, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. That was the exact play that I was also going to mention, was that deep attempt to Dylan Bell over the middle of the field later in the second half. And I think that if Gunner maybe pulls the trigger just a hair sooner, that ball's going to connect before the DB has time to run under it and get involved in the play. And I think that if he connects on that pass, I think a lot of us are singing a different tune right now, because Gunner's stat line is going to go from here to here just like that. And so I think that could change the perspective very quickly. But I also think your question about the play calling, something that I had mentioned earlier in the show, is I do think that we are still trying to keep some things under wraps. As we get into tougher competition, I think you're going to see a more fully fleshed out version of the playbook become available to Gunner as we get into Tennessee and Alabama and the rest of our conference slate.
And I'll give you one more point on this, because I think you're making a very fair question. So I can't tell you if there's the play call name that they're holding back. I won't even pretend to be able to tell you that. But two things I think you've noticed now 2 weeks in a row. We haven't seen very much of Noah Thomas yet. I guarantee you Thomas is going to get targeted more against Tennessee than he's been targeted in these two games combined. Barring some sort of weird injury, I feel like Noah Thomas gets targeted a lot next week. I feel the same way about Colby Young. Now, eventually, they finally had, if you watch early third quarter, like, all right, Colby, just go out there and do something. And so they, used him to go on a long drive, and they used that to score. So I would say for Georgia next week, and I'll be honest with you, we're going to talk about this a lot during the week, I think Georgia's best chance of winning the game against Tennessee is a low-scoring game. I do, and we'll talk about the reasons why. But I think the big receivers, Colby Young, Noah Thomas, probably Lawson Lucky if you want to count him in the pass-catching group, I think that's some of the stuff we haven't seen a lot yet. And I do think a more successful offense includes those guys, and boy, I hope it comes up against Tennessee.
So, and again, I feel like we can assume that Gunner is not, we're going to NIL here. He's not a big money guy. So we spent money in the transfer portal on our ex receivers. We've got Colby, we've got Noah, and obviously we have Zach in the slot. And I feel like the fans are waiting for that explosive offense that we're not seeing.
No, I think that's very fair. And so, look, next 2 games, over the course of the next 3 weeks, if we see it, all is forgiven. But obviously, today gave you some reason for concern. I appreciate you saying what you say. Thanks for being on the show. Appreciate that.
Thanks for coming on.
Let's go back to phones over here, and let's get Derek in Tennessee. Derek, you're next up here on our DawgNation Postgame show. Derek, thanks for being here. What'd you think about Georgia today, 28-6 against Austin Peay, Derek?
Well, BA, I want to say hello to you and Rodrigo. Hope y'all doing well. Honestly, to answer that question, I didn't feel real good about what I watched today, but I did see a lot of players playing. I would like to have seen more vertical throws, maybe a little bit more, because I agree with Rodrigo. Gunner held on to the ball just a little too long on the throw to Dylan. Because he was wide open there. So, but hey, I think we're holding some stuff back in the playbook. So I'm looking forward to the upcoming games on our schedule, and I hope that we can let it loose. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs indeed, Derek. I appreciate that. So, Rodrigo, I'm glad you're here because I think that you're obviously a sharp analyst. In my opinion, I think it's safe to say I don't know that Gunnar Stockton looked comfortable today. Now, is that because Gunnar wasn't comfortable with himself, or was he uncomfortable with the offensive line that's in front of him? I won't be able to fully diagnose that. I'm not even sure I necessarily want to try. But just on a simple descriptive basis, do you think it's safe to say that Gunnar Stockton did not look comfortable today?
I think that would be a good way to put it. Everything just felt a little off, a little bit out of sync today. But I would also like to point out, in all of the analysis of the offensive struggles today, we did have a 98-yard touchdown drive.
That's exactly right.
After the goal line stand, where
exactly
Austin Peay
right.
was down inside the 5-yard line, our defense stuffed them, and then we went on to have a 98-yard touchdown drive right after that, and really, made me feel a lot better about the team leaving this game. And so, even though there's going to be a lot of talk about the struggles that we had, we did put together a very substantial drive at the end of the game, and I think that there's going to be a lot of positives to take away from that moving forward.
17 plays also in the second half there. So when Georgia had to, it did lean on its running game. That's the thing that they said during the offseason they wanted to do. That's what a lot of us said we wanted to see. So I think Rodrigo's exactly right. It's more than fair to say this needs to be better. I'd like to see more of that. But you got to couple it with what they did do. And they did, other than the one Nate Frazier fumble, I think lean on the running game pretty well. Let's bring another great Georgia fan in here right now. The 14 jersey's looking good. Always appreciate when you're on the show. Remind folks of your name and then tell us what you think about here today.
I'm Andrew Sisson. And
Andrew, it's great to see you.
Yeah, go Dogs. Hey, thanks, Goggles, for everything you've done for UGA.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's nice to see you. Just like the last fellow, Gunnar. What was up with that? It'd be nice to see him get some completed pass downfield. Maybe we're saving a whole bunch of things for UT, but I'm kind of scared. I thought UT would be a lot easier than what's coming, but I don't know. We're going to see. Hopefully we're holding something back. That's all I got to say. But at least the defense played pretty well, and Gunnar just did look uncomfortable, and I don't know why. That kind of scares me.
Yeah, no, Andrew, I think that's a really good point. I appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you so much. Appreciate that for sure. And I think that Andrew, in the midst of talking about the conversation about Gunnar Stockton, which needs to be had, it is true that, boy, this defense had a couple of opportunities where it could have given up a touchdown, and it just did not want to. And, they're flying around, and it does remind you of, in those moments anyway, some of the Georgia defenses of the recent past, and that's what you want to see. Now, obviously, how they handle a road spot next week, which in the SEC, it's just gotten very tough to win on the road, that's going to judge that group, of course, but I do think there's a lot of promise right now being shown by the Georgia defense. Glad to have that as a part of the storyline here today as well.
Yes, absolutely. We touched on the turnovers earlier, and typically turnovers are not going to put your defense in a great spot on the field when they head back out there. Usually your defense is going out and having to defend a short field, and that was the case a couple times today. But, as we mentioned, the defense really bowed up, really showed up when they needed to. Kept Austin Peay out of the end zone for the game, which was great. A couple field goals, it's all right. Obviously, I am never going to be one to cheer against fellow specialists.
Sure, I understand that.
I know how tough
it's a fraternity, right?
It is. It's a fraternity. So, I'm never going to cheer against that. But our defense did great today, and I think they're going to have a lot of positives to take away and build on for next week.
You can give us a call 678-645-DAWG, or click the link if you're watching live right now. James and Elberton, you're next up on our DawgNation postgame call-in show. James, how about them Dogs? 28-6 is the final. What did you think?
I tell you what, B.A., how about them Dogs? Good to talk to you, man, and Rodrigo. A lot of good memories, man.
You too, James.
The Oklahoma game when you kicked that 55-yard field goal, I believe it was, right before the end of the half. And I don't know, I think about you, I remember that field goal. But anyhow, B.A., I got two things. The first thing I'll say is with Gunnar Stockton, I know there might be a little bit of maybe some criticism or he held the ball too long a little bit. But I tell you one thing that I've noticed is he makes good decisions. He doesn't put us in he doesn't make disastrous plays. He doesn't seem to make a lot of bad decisions. I know several times when he was flushed out of the pocket, he could have chunked it into coverage, but he made the right decision, either threw the ball away or just got a few yards and lived to play another down. But, his decision-making, I think is really good, and I don't think people talk about it enough. But secondly, I'll say that, when I look at the playmakers that Georgia has, and obviously, Zachariah Branch, last week, it was awesome when he caught that first pass, I believe it was, and he broke a tackle and spun around. You could just see he's a threat, and that's what Georgia really needs, that guy that can hit a home run and just kill a defense and go all the way. But another guy, I tell you, that I just love is Dwight Phillips. And maybe I'm wrong on this, or just my perception of it, but, just watching him run, I feel like he's one of the most dangerous backs we've got. I mean, Chauncey Bowens did great today, but Dwight Phillips seems like he has that it factor. And, you know, like I said, maybe I'm wrong, but I know today it was the first quarter, maybe the end of it, beginning of second quarter, he was in there. I mean, he was hot and he was running, and then you don't see him again. And I'm like, if a guy is running like that and he's in the zone, I guess you would say, leave him in there. Kind of like Brock Bowers or Ladd McConkey or somebody like that, man. When those players get hot, like, put them in. Like, I don't understand when we were at the end of the half, when we were down there at the goal line, why not put that guy in? Because, I mean, he showed even last week with Marshall. He can run, and he can run over some people, and he can get it done. But I'd like to see them, you know, feed him the ball a lot more. But, you know, just see what you guys thought about that. But I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, James, thanks so much. I appreciate you there as well. And I think the story with Dwight Phillips is an interesting one. So comes out of high school, he's a world-class speedster, and you wonder, can this guy be a traditional running back? Is that the role that he can fill? Well, now he's put on some weight. He had his first touchdown last year against Florida, and pretty clearly right now Georgia has three running backs that it really trusts. Phillips is one of those, Chauncey Bowens is the other, Nate Frazier is the third. That's the trio right now for Georgia at running back, and I kind of agree with James on this that now 2 weeks into the season, before the year began, I certainly had Phillips, because of what we had been hearing from practice, as a guy that was likely going to play, and because of his speed and elusiveness, going to be a part of the Georgia offense. And yet I feel like with every passing moment, I'm upgrading what I think his potential is to the point right now where, you know, I do want him in a game. I kind of understand at the goal line, it's not the biggest guy in the world. You want a bit of a bigger set maybe in there, even though you got stuffed on a couple of running plays. You want the bigger set in there. But pretty clearly, in some of the biggest moments of this season, Dwight Phillips is going to be on the field for Georgia.
Yes, I agree. You know, as you said, I think that when you see him on the field, you get the ball in his hands, it feels like something exciting is about to happen any moment he gets the ball. You know, it feels like he's a home run threat, and I do think that we need to make sure that we get him some touches every single game because he's got that world-class speed, and I think if we can get him out into the open field, he can make some things happen. So I do hope that we get to see more of him. We do kind of have a three-headed monster, so to speak, with our three guys that all got touches today. We also have Cash Jones, who comes in on, you know, third downs, is really good out of the backfield and can make some things happen, and we saw a few plays from him as well today. So I'm really excited about Georgia's running backs. We all have, you know, really high hopes and high expectations for them. And then the other point that he had made talking about Gunner earlier in his question, you know, something that I feel like we didn't see as much from Gunner today, and this was more on the play calling, is we didn't see as much design quarterback run today.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that maybe that contributed in some small way to Gunner's lack of comfortability because, you know, I like to see Gunner get out there and make some moves and run over some people, and he was really effective with his legs last week, and we didn't get to see as much of that this week. And so maybe if we can get Gunner a little bit more involved in the run game next week, that will help and translate to a little bit more comfortability setting up the pass game.
Number is 678-645-DAWG. You can also click the link on any of the chats that you, on the platform you happen to be watching the show on. We're also going to see some highlights of the game here coming up in a moment. Happy to have Rodrigo Blankenship hanging out with us here at the UGA Bookstore. Also a great couple of Georgia fans here, too. Come on in here. We'll get you in the camera shot here and tell everybody your name.
My name is Paisley.
It's great to have you as a part of the show. What's your name?
Kristen.
Kristen's great to have you there as well. So, Kristen, let me start with you. What did you think about the game today?
It was good. We enjoyed it.
What was your favorite part?
All the touchdowns, of course.
Exactly, right. It's never a bad thing watching Georgia score a touchdown here in Athens. How about for you? What did you enjoy today?
I enjoy trying to get up there on the screen.
Did you make it on the video screen?
A little bit.
Well, that's awesome. Well, listen, I'm glad to have y'all here today, and thanks for being a part of our DawgNation Postgame show. Really appreciate that. Great to hear from good Georgia fans here as a part of our postgame show at the UGA Bookstore. And I also want to give a shout-out here right now to our friends at the Georgia Spa Company. You know, if you want to have the best way to enjoy the upcoming fall time of year when it's fun to be outside, a great spa, hot tub, the sorts of thing that Georgia Spa Company is famous for, boy, what a great way to do all of that. And some of the very best brands they have great relationships with, and they can install in your home. I'm talking about hot spring spas, Caldera spas, endless pools, Tylo saunas, and so much more. You got friendly expert staff here that knows these products, knows how to install them in a way that's going to make your home look beautiful. They can do that for you every single time. It's a valet spa team that can get it all set up and ready to go for you. They've got an award-winning reputation, and they offer a satisfaction guarantee. So they've served over 35,000 customers here in Georgia. and they have more than 4,500 five-star reviews. That means when you work at Georgia Spa Company, you're working with some folks who certainly know all about how to take good care of you. So if you're ready for one of the saunas, the spas, the hot tubs that they're famous for, great time to get that here right now. In fact, they've got 7 locations all across North Georgia. You can go visit one of them today. You can also find them online at georgiaspacompany.com. That is georgiaspacompany.com for a lot more on that. All right, let's go back to the phones here once again. Let's get Patrick in Augusta. Patrick, you're next up here on the DawgNation Postgame Show. Patrick, thanks for being here. Let's try this. Let's try Derek in Albany. Derek, you're next up here in the DawgNation Postgame Show. Derek, how about them Dogs? What do you think about the game today?
How about them Dogs, BA? How you doing?
How about them indeed?
My only thing was the game was what everybody else said about Gunner or whatever, and, why not give him a couple of shots downfield? He actually missed a couple of shots downfield when he took off running. And I know the line, I'm worried about the O-line. Look like they're not giving him enough time back there. But, all in all, I just think we're holding stuff back. We're really seeing what we got next week against Tennessee. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs indeed. So I want to bring up 3 quick points about what he said, Rodrigo. Thing number 1 is this, there have been a lot of instances in Georgia's recent history, because this is just the nature of college football, where we've seen Georgia oftentimes just like this, win a game, maybe not always in the most impressive fashion. We're left to wonder, well, gosh, how can Georgia now go try to do something even harder on the road in the SEC? And oftentimes it's just exactly the way that it happens. It's not the same team every week, not the same level of energy, motivation. I'm not making excuses, but it would not be certainly the first time if next week Georgia plays a much better brand of football after having played, as we've said before, I'm calling this a lackluster game. If Georgia plays better against Tennessee, this would be just the next in many instances in which that's been true.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that next week everyone's going to buckle their chin straps a little bit tighter. They're going to tie their shoes up just a little bit, more carefully. I think that when we get into SEC competition, whether guys want to admit it or not, I think that their intensity is going to take a little bit of an increase. And so I think that we are going to see more intensity, more urgency out of everybody when we get ready for Neyland Stadium next week.
And 2 other quick points I want to make here. I think the caller also brings up, if you want to circle the biggest thing today, and it's not going to be easy to pinpoint because the overall rushing yards look fine. Stockton did not get sacked today, right? He didn't take a sack. So some of the stats that you would use to measure this don't look terrible, but I do think the shakiest performance came from the offensive line, and I think I'm going to attribute a lot of that to, once again, Georgia barely has been able to use the 5 linemen it wanted to start the season with, because Ernest Green, Juan Gaston, even for a while today, Josh Jackson, who started the game, left the game with injury. I don't know how much of that you attribute to injury, but the offensive line probably did not have a great day today.
Yeah, we're definitely going to need to see some improved play going forward if we want to achieve the goals that we have set out for this season.
And one more thing about that call, then we'll show some highlights here. In terms of the downfield passing, I won't pretend to know exactly what was happening in the huddle or on the sideline or anything else, but the fact that we saw so little of that, I think I attribute that more to Stockton than I do to Mike Bobo. I'm not in the play. I don't have the headset on. I don't know what's going on, but I think there were a couple of misfires from Gunner, maybe a couple of chances where he could have pulled the trigger and didn't. I don't know that I put this on, well, Bobo doesn't want him to throw deep. I think if there was less of that today than there should have been, certainly than fans wanted to, I think I'll probably put that on Stockton more so than Bobo, at least for today.
Yeah, and I also think that if we're going to have success long-term this year with downfield passing, I think that it needs to be built off of the play action. I feel like last week and this week, when I saw some more straight drop-back passes, they weren't necessarily as effective as when we had run the ball on first or second down and then set up a play action. Kind of freezes the defense, gives the receivers a little bit more separation because the DBs are, trying to cheat and get their eyes in the backfield. And, I think that if we can be really effective with running the ball and then setting up our play-action passing game, that is going to allow Gunner to have a lot more success, especially with those downfield shots.
Got a very special guest over here right now, someone that you see in our comment section all the time. Our good friend Kathy Aquaviva here today. Did I pronounce it right? You did. All right, say it's good. It's a long time ago. I was not so great about it. Come on over here, Miriam.
Florida just lost.
Oh, so Florida just lost to South Florida. part of the reason why I wanted you to come over here is because I wanted to ask what the big cheer was. So Florida today playing as a 17.5-point favorite against South Florida. They have lost the game, which, Rodrigo, by the way, is maybe some proper context here. Georgia, 18-16 was the final. Georgia fans not super happy about a 28-6 win. You could always be a lousy, stinking Gator today, which is even worse.
Yes, absolutely. I think if you look at some other scores across the SEC, there's definitely worse fan bases that you could be a part of today. Obviously, with the news of Florida losing to South Florida, obviously it's not a great day to be a Gator. And then we also saw Ole Miss struggle at home against Kentucky today, where it was a 20-20 game, into the fourth quarter. And we saw last year Kentucky came into Ole Miss and beat them, and it was a pretty big damper on their resume trying to get to the playoffs last year. So, there's always worse places to be across the SEC today.
So two of our legendary commenters, been a part of our show for a long time, Kathy and Miriam. First of all, Kathy, I know next week's a big one for you.
It's a big one.
You obviously have a lot of ties to the state of Tennessee. So tell me how you felt today and how you feel about these Dogs overall.
So today, I'm glad we won. It was a good win. I felt today we had some challenges and we learned a lot. Unfortunately, I think we also gave Tennessee some pretty good film. So we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and come up with some new ideas. My favorite parts of the game were Colby Young. I think he had a fantastic game. The final drive. And I was really impressed with our defense and those two fourth and short holds.
Yeah, we said
it was really fantastic.
We said this a little earlier. I get every indication that Colby Young's going to be a part of this offense for Georgia this season, and a big part of this offense, right, Rodrigo?
Yes, sir.
And Miriam, obviously, it's always great to hear from you. What did you think about Georgia today?
I thought it was great. I love that 10-minute drive they had to start the second half. That was
They needed that, right?
Yes.
And it was wonderful to see Brett Thorson back out there. I've been missing him.
That's exactly right. I saw Thorson come in early before the dog walk. To me, that was an indication, well, maybe Thorson's not going to play, but he did get back out there. Obviously, if you're a Georgia fan, you don't want him punting too much, but you're glad to have a punter like Brett, are you not?
Yes, absolutely. Brett's been rock solid for University of Georgia in his career, and I look forward to seeing him do really good things again this season. I got to go dap him up before the game, got to see all the specialists before the game, and was really excited to see Brett finally get back out there and get some action.
So, Miriam and Kathy, it is so great to have you here today. I really appreciate that, and thanks for being a part of what we do.
Fellow Sprayberry Yellow Jacket, he went there.
Oh, yes.
There you go. That's us.
I get a signature from you?
So nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get that signed for you. We absolutely will. So good stuff from Kathy and Miriam. We're thrilled to have them here. Now, Rodrigo, I got to ask you something. You have had a very long day. You were here for 2 hours before the game. We're rolling on here right now. If you'd like to tap out and go be with your family, we'd love to have you do that. We're going to roll on here for a few minutes, but if you'd like to tap out, we'd love to have you take a break here, or you're free to hang out with us if you'd like to. But if you're ready to go, as I said before, you've been in this UGA Bookstore for a long time today. So if you're ready to go, we'll give you a chance to go enjoy.
Okay, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's been a great day here. I'm never going to complain about my time in Athens. I had a great time at the bookstore earlier today. Got to meet so many fans. Got to hear some really cool stories from fans who've come from all over the place. I think we had some fans in here from Alaska today, actually, that came by the bookstore. So really incredible to see DawgNation stretching across the entire country. Had a great time at the stadium watching the Dogs. Obviously, we've got some things to clean up, but I'm still really looking forward to what we're going to do in Knoxville in our next game. And thank you guys so much for having me on the show today.
Rodrigo, I certainly appreciate that. Great stuff from him right there. Rodrigo, thank you very much. You can just hop on out of here. You can take your headset off, and we'll let you go and enjoy some of your family after getting a chance to call the Dogs today. A great shot of that right there. That's certainly a great thing to be able to see. We got highlights coming up. Also have another Georgia fan who going to come over here and join us too. We'll also get back to phone calls. I'm going to run through some of our folks in person here just because the bookstore is about to close. We'll get back to the phones, I promise, right after this. Welcome to the show. Appreciate you being here. Tell us your name and what you thought about Georgia today.
Yes, name's Daniel Tugg from Chatsports, Georgia, Lama Conquer country.
Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, that's all you need to know. That's good stuff right there.
Put his name out there. Absolutely. Yes, big fan of your show. But anyways, like the way we get in a rotation of running game, and then I like the way we I know the offensive line didn't have its best, but like Bobo said, that trying to get them dirty yards, trying to get those yards, it's hard to get. And so, because we're going to play some better defensive lines, and we're going to have to, get some more harder yards. And like the way we got about Colby Young, getting it spread out. So I think it'll be a better week next week.
I think you're exactly right. I appreciate you being on the show. Well said. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And go Dogs indeed. And, listen, let's not lose hope for this game against Tennessee. I think Georgia's going to have its shot and its chances there, but obviously it's going to have to play better than it did today. I think most Georgia fans understand that. Okay, if you're on hold, stay where you are. Also, highlights. You want to see and relive some of the biggest, most important moments from today's game? We'll run through all of that too. Give me 60 seconds to pay some bills. Literally 1 minute, and then we're right back to it on our DawgNation Postgame show tonight. So glad to have you here. Calls continue. Reaction to a win for Georgia. Maybe not as aesthetically pleasing as it could have been. That's all coming up. It's our DawgNation Postgame show. 1 quick minute, and we're right back to it, including your calls. So if you're on hold, stay where you are. Or if you want to join us, 678-645-DAWG. That's 678-645-DAWG. Or click the link in the live chat. We'll see you 1 minute from right now.
Big games deserve big meals, so let Sercheros make it happen. It's friendly Tex-Mex, served fresh every day. Sercheros Catering can handle the crowd, so it's perfect for your tailgate or watch party. Order online, pickup, or delivery. Sercheros is Georgia grown with over 30 locations throughout the state, bringing you fresh Mex, bowls, burritos, tacos, and more, with over 25 fresh toppings, customizable, just the way you like it. So find a location near you at Sercheros.com. That's Sercheros.com.
If you're thirsting for It's Only Tuesday, that meeting should have been an email, and really need something to go your way level of refreshment, we definitely have that. When you're feeling the heat, Circle K makes your day.
This is DawgNation Postgame, brought to you by Sercheros, Royal Caribbean, Georgia Spa Company, and the UGA Bookstore.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're live here at the UGA Bookstore where the DawgNation Postgame call-in show continues. We'll hear from you. You can react to Georgia's win today over Austin Peay. Maybe not quite what everybody wanted to be here, but if you want to go back now and relive some of the top moments from the game, some of them extraordinary, some of them maybe not quite so much so. Why don't we get ready to go looking at that right now, including what I think caused a bit of a gasp from Georgia fans at the very beginning of this game. Opening possession for Georgia after a big defensive stop. You're going to see, well, first of all, you're going to see getting involved offensively, a chance to make a big completion. But it's going to be Nate Frazier who's going to fumble on the opening possession. And at that point, Georgia fans were left to wonder what in the world's going on here. A fumble on the opening possession, not exactly what you wanted to see. Then Zachariah Branch would come back. He'd get a chance to get a completion for Georgia, shaking off the fumble, getting a stop. Then Gunnar Stockton's going to give the ball to Chauncey Bowens. Good day for Bowens, one of 2 touchdowns for him. And Bowens asserting himself now as a part of that trio of running backs you expect to see a lot of. Then Chris Cole is going to come in, get a big sack. Good day for the Georgia defense overall. Cole, we've been told, is going to be a big factor on third down. Right there, he certainly was. And then coming back offensively for Georgia, how about the freshman Talon Taylor getting involved in the offense? First career catch for Taylor. We expect to see a lot more of that in the time to come. Interesting that the freshman was involved so early in the game. And then shaking off the fumble, redeeming himself, was Nate Frazier, who would also find the end zone. It was a good day for Georgia overall on the ground, 4 rushing touchdowns in total. Then Ellis Robinson, the freshman quarterback, redshirt freshman quarterback on DawgNation Daily on Friday, who said we would love to see an interception from him. And as one of our commenters said today, we got our wish. Then it's going to be Gunnar Stockton with a completion, and actually in that case an incompletion. There were certainly a few of those from Georgia here today from Stockton as well. But the Georgia defense would do its job, including C.J. Allen getting involved, bringing down the Austin Peay quarterback. Georgia making plays defensively all over the place. But unfortunately, when you think about a play by Cash Jones, it's going to set up Georgia for a scoring opportunity. When you get down to the goal line, this Georgia offense just could not quite make it happen. A completion to Zachariah Branch, but he'd be wrestled down in front of the goal line, would not get into the end zone. Georgia would be stuffed with a couple of running plays. And then eventually the first half clock is going to simply run out on UGA, and Kirby Smart was not happy about any of that. Fans were disappointed. Weather would come in, and then it'd be, frankly, just a very ugly end to the first half for Georgia, with guys getting stuffed. The Governor's defense was loving all of that. And at this point, it was about the most frustrating moment of the entire game, with the weather delay, the first half concluding the way that it did, with Georgia failing to get any points out of it. Certainly an ugly spot with all of that. But if you go back to the second half, you get into the third quarter, that's when you would see Chauncey Bowens. He obviously got another touchdown, or maybe we're not showing those right now, but obviously a disappointing situation for Georgia. Weather delay brings the first half to a close. Georgia was up at that time by a margin of only 14-3. It did get better in the second half. We might not have those highlights to show you here right now. We'll give you more later on if we do. Instead, let's go back to phones on our DawgNation post-game show. Let's check in with Colby and Valdosta. Colby, you're next up. DawgNation post-game show. Appreciate your time. How about them Dogs? What'd you think about everything you saw here today?
Yeah, BA, I will say, as a former athlete myself, how much do you think that the starting time of the game getting moved up, and also the weather? I feel like a lot of times athletes, they have their routines that they go through pregame. Not that it's an excuse for the sluggish performance, but this game gave me Kent State 2022 vibes. So I'm wanting to think that a little bit of the weather and the bump up in the start time may have affected the overall rhythm of the team. But the offensive line is definitely an area of concern, because they look like there's a lot of gaps there. So wanted to hear your thoughts on that. Appreciate you taking my call.
Yeah, Colby, I appreciate the phone call. No, I appreciate it, Colby. I appreciate both those points. So on the offensive line, listen, I think that's fair. And here's what we don't know right now. We don't know how much of what seemed to be a group not quite gelling together was because of deficient performance, and how much of that is this is still a unit right now trying to figure out who its best five is and trying to get guys back healthy. Obviously, Ernest Green still dealing with his issue. Juan Gaston, who he'd heard plenty of good things about, just ill-timed injury for him at the beginning of the first game. That's obviously what's holding him back right now, too. And frankly, we don't know. You would obviously hope healthy enough to play against Tennessee, but as it stands right now, we don't quite know that. And we don't know what that's doing to the rest of the rhythm of this Georgia offensive line. Georgia was moving a lot of guys in and moving a lot of guys around. You saw Michael Weaney get some run at guard, kicked out to tackle. You saw Dontrell Glover in, back out, then back in again. You saw Jai Jackson in the game to start, got injured, or at least I don't want to say got injured, but he seemed to be hobbled, left the game, then he came back in. Looks like in the second half you got more from Bo Hughley. Georgia, to be frank, would probably be rotating a lot on the offensive line no matter what, because near the beginning of the season, that's what it wants to do. So are the issues we're seeing with the Georgia offensive line right now a continuation of some issues a year ago where you also had a lot of guys moving in and out, or is this something that will stabilize as it gets ready to play its biggest games, identifying who its best five are going to be? I'd love to tell you that I have that answer right now, but I don't. But that's what it comes down to. This is either a group that's just getting a lot of experience for a lot of players and ultimately believes it's going to get the right guys healthy at the right time, or this may be more this year of what we saw last year, which, if we're being honest, was a concern before the season began. Then when you reference the earlier start time, obviously both teams dealt with the earlier start time, but I can tell you that when it comes to athletes and a very specific schedule that in the case of Georgia pregame is timed out to the minute, anytime you move that up by an hour, now they wouldn't have done that if Kirby Smart didn't want to, so ultimately this is essentially his idea, but in situations like that, yeah, you do wonder how it impacts the rhythm. Honestly, better to start earlier than wait longer, probably. I think most athletes would say they don't like sitting around and waiting for something to begin. That's why a lot of players like night games a lot less than most fans do, because it's a lot of waiting around in the hotel before the game that can be a bit uncomfortable. My guess is, and obviously Kirby Smart was, oh boy, was he upset near the end of this first half today. But my guess is that that while Georgia was having its meeting with players and telling them what they were going to do, there were also a lot of staff meetings going on too, planning for contingencies. Would not surprise me, for instance, if Georgia already anticipated the bad weather the second half and knowing how it was going to get the guys dry, get them fed maybe, or whatever it was they would be doing in that prolonged delay. This is the forward thinking that that they're just pretty wise about doing. Would not have surprised me at all on that. Ultimately, though, I think those are all really good points. Let's go back to phones again. Let's get Bill in Rome. Bill, you're next up on the DawgNation Postgame Show. Glad to have you with us today.
Yes, BA. I got to tell you, I didn't see the same team that I saw last week. And as far as that goal line stand before halftime, atrocious. But, of course, they redeemed themselves in the second half. But in overall, one good thing about this game, though, they kept the opponent out of the end zone. That's all I got to say.
Bill, great phone call, and I'm like you. I am glad for this Georgia defense to be able to keep them out of the end zone, that you can take that as a positive. And whether it be the Chris Cole sack, the Ellis Robinson interception, we said we might measure this game in moments on that side of the ball, and a handful of Georgia players did create some of those moments. Elijah Griffin got at least one more tackle for loss. There were some of those things happening, and you certainly like to be able to see that. Let's keep the conversation going here. Let's get John in California, way out west. John, hope the weather there is better than it's been for a good part of the day here in Georgia. We're glad to have you as part of our DawgNation postgame show. How about them Dogs? What'd you think about it?
Yes, BA, thanks for taking my call. I listen to you every morning out here. Keep my sanity. I enjoyed the game, and I just have two comments. I was very excited to see the defense get the sack, and I put my trust in Kirby, and I was excited to see him fiery when we didn't push the ball through on the goal line last year. I thought that was lacking in him, but I was glad to see Kirby get fired up once again on the foul line, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs indeed, John. Thanks for checking the show. The fact that you would watch us and the fact that you would allow us to, as you say, keep you sane, I certainly appreciate that. And you're right. We showed the video a little earlier. Man, oh, man, was Kirby fired up. I think what he was actually mad about, because, to be honest with you, there was an open mic situation there. The ref's mic was open. Kirby was heard cursing. I think what he was upset about was not just getting stuffed at the goal line, but the fact that Georgia was maybe a little slow to get up and get back to the ball. A little frustrated about that. That might have been the issue. So I appreciate that. And that was certainly, if Kirby wants fire, passion, and energy, he certainly brought it himself here right there. How about our buddy DT? Big part of our chat every day at DawgNation.com. Checking in from beautiful Big Canoe, one of the gorgeous spots there in North Georgia. DT, how about them Dogs? What'd you think? Not the prettiest game, but I guess Georgia gets a win. We're glad to have you as a part of the show. What you thinking here today?
Hey there, BA. I was not impressed at all. I was actually disgusted by the offensive line. I thought they were terrible. I also would say that, and this is probably not a, widely held opinion, but I think Peanut is the best running back on the team, and I would give him more carries. So anyway, Brandon, you give us every day an amazing amount of content. It's just hard. I don't think people realize how hard it is that you give in content every day, and I really appreciate it. So I just want to thank you.
Well, DT, I appreciate that so much. It's an incredibly nice thing for you to say. It is honestly my privilege to be able to do this show and to talk to Georgia fans like yourself each and every day. There's nothing I enjoy more than that, and that's through good times, bad times, and everything else in between, whatever today counts as. I certainly appreciate that. So your kind words are very meaningful to me. I appreciate that. It frankly means more to me than you would ever know. I also agree with you on Dwight Phillips. Or at least I agree that Phillips is very quickly becoming a pretty big story for this team. In fact, we're going to go ahead and give him our ServPro game ball today for his performance overall. Georgia needs players that can run away from defenders. And I don't know there's anybody who can do that more than Phillips can right now. Zachariah Branch is in that category. But, man, oh, man, Dwight Phillips can really do that. And so I do think as you think about big games, I think they're going to use him more and more. He's, as we talked to Rodrigo Blankenship about a little earlier, he's getting bigger. He's getting, a little more stout. That enables him to take the blows that come his way, the collisions that come his way in the SEC. I think there's a chance he has a very bright future. And unfortunately, we are left when it comes to the offensive line, and you see the overall numbers here. Dave Frazier, 69 yards. Chauncey Bowens, 56. Dwight Phillips gets 55 here today. You see all of that. But it's actually Phillips who will get our game ball today. The folks that vote on this seeing fit to give that to Phillips. So we'll thank our friends at ServPro for being a part of this. Love everything they do. In fact, you can find them online, servpro.com, for more on that. Big messes, fire, damage, water intrusion, weather-related catastrophes. ServPro is there to help you get the mess cleaned up and get it back together like it never even happened. ServPro.com for more on that. We've also got Jeff Sentell hanging on right now. Let's jump into Jeff here for a moment. Jeff, you're on the sidelines through the weather delay and everything else. From your perspective, what did you see? Maybe not surprising for you to hear. Not every Georgia fan thrilled with a game that the final margin far smaller than I think the experts would have anticipated before the game began.
Brandon, man, I think after 2 games, we're probably where we all thought we would be at the beginning of the season. That is, we would find out really what Georgia has when it goes to play in Knoxville. Here's some wrinkles we saw today. I thought it was interesting. I think Colby Young is developing into a go-to receiver for Gunnar Stockton. I think this was a breakout game. I mean, I'm not going to politic or get back and forth with the game ball this week because I know it's a democratic process. But I really thought Chauncey Bowens keeps getting better and better. 2 touchdowns. Those were his first 2 touchdowns. And I think, there's a lot of people, kind of kicking the tires on the Georgia machine right now. Let's call it that. And I think the run game is still what Georgia can lean on right now. And that was a lot of cleanups on aisle 3 and aisle 4 that the defense had to deal with today. And the Georgia locker room afterward, the players, especially the defensive players, said they had to make sure they had to bow their necks and come up with those stops because that's the Georgia standard.
So I didn't want to say this because I got a lot of balls in the air, and look, it's late in the show. We're just trying to get through this. But since you bring it up, I have to say, and our guy DT just certainly gave a lot of praise to Dwight Phillips. He deserves it. But who is voting him player of the game today? What are we doing? Is this really a vote? Is that how we got Dwight? And listen, I love Dwight Phillips. I believe he'll be player of the game in many games in the future. How is he getting voted player of the game today? I honestly don't understand that, Jeff.
I think maybe people
it should be Chauncey Bowens, should it not?
Yeah,
it's got to be Bowens, right?
Look at the sizzle, Brandon. You know what I mean? The sizzle, like he's electric. There's a spark to him. And where Nate and Chauncey basically are just 8, 9 yard, 10 carry guys. But I want to. This is a moment where I can peel back the layer a little bit, and everybody's probably in the stands going, "What's up with this Bowens guy?" Well, a lousy, stinking former Gator was his head coach, Brandon. And when he was coming through high school, he was a high school All-American. Chauncey Bowens, he compared him to Leonard Fournette. Now, I'm not even going to say that that's on the way, but I think that's a guy that's going to really help Georgia this year. He's a big back. He runs hard. It's kind of one cut and go. And, one of the things that the Georgia players are really confident in right now is their run game. And I don't know if you noticed it, but it was almost like the Dogs after the half were like, bump this, man. We're just going to run this rock. We're going to let these guys tote that tater, and let's just put this game out of reach. And I thought that's one thing Georgia can kind of go to right now. Yes, the ball's not going downfield enough. I don't think they're utilizing Noah Thomas yet. I don't think they're utilizing a lot of players yet. Dylan Bell is another guy that comes to mind. I'm sure you've already had much consternation, Brandon, about those goal line goal line misfires, especially. There were some social media posts. I don't know if you saw that, but there were some prominent names talking about
Oh no,
Georgia's
there
240 pounds.
no, yes. Yes, there were definitely some social media posts around the time of the first half debacle of a conclusion. Yes, no, I did take a gander at social media around that time. Yes, yes, Jeff, I did indeed. Okay, so we've had a lot of countries weigh in here. So Jay Black says that Dwight Phillips had the only run today in excess of 20 yards. That's why he got it. Kaylee says she would have given game ball to Colby Young. Young has a nice day. What is it, 78 yards receiving overall for him. 7 catches, 76 yards. That's not bad. But, yeah, so you see the numbers for Young, and honestly, in the second half, he was huge. But I got Bowens for 2 touchdowns and a 5.1 yard per carry average on a day in which he only scored 28 points against Austin Peay. I mean, I think you got to give player of the game to our ServPro game ball. You got to give that to Chauncey Bowens, Jeff, do you not?
Brandon, you have the executive powers, man. I know you wield a lot around this show. Can you call for a recount and ceremoniously recrown that new ServPro player of the game? Do you have that capability, sir?
I feel like I might need to. As I said before, it's one of those things like we're busy. We got 1,000 things going on. I was just going to let it go, but since you mentioned, I can't really let that go after that. Okay, so. Let me
give you a couple little flavor things from the locker room. CJ Allen said they got to play better. They got to do better. That was one thing. He had a nice game tonight. Brent, I don't know if you noticed that. 7 tackles, led Georgia in tackles. He had a sack today. He had a tackle for loss. And he was one of those guys in the post game. You can find that video right now on the DawgNation YouTube page, man. And he was very kind of taking that leadership role about, hey, man, we just got to play better than that.
All right, we have a very important update that Kaylee Mansell is going to provide us in a minute. We're going to try to cram a lot in the next couple of minutes. Oh my gosh, we appear to have a spitting epidemic in football right now, and Florida has found a new way to embarrass itself. We're going to give you more on that here coming up in a moment. Kaylee Mansell is going to tell us all about it. Let's also get a couple of calls here, too. We got our guy Ryan Walker still in Philly. I love Ryan. Hadn't heard from Ryan on the postgame show in a little while. Ryan, are you with us? And can you join us here on our DawgNation postgame call-in show right now? Ryan, how about them dogs? The floor is yours. Tell us what you think about it.
Yes, I can. How about them dogs, man? Look. I'm gonna give you a little bit of positivity before I beat the dead horse with it. Look, first off, shout out to the defense because they only allowed 2 field goals today. Last week we gave up a touchdown. This is the stuff that nobody's talking about. Yes, this is a young defense, but if you're noticing, they're flying around the ball. They got off the field on 3rd down this week a lot more than they did last week. Now, we just got to get a little bit better with our fundamentals with tackling because we missed more tackles because guys weren't wrapping up. But we already know that Kirby's going to handle that this week. However, next week, we can't go in there BSing around on defense because we're going to be facing a formidable offense with Tennessee. Now, I think we still can beat them, but here's the kicker. If we beat Tennessee, our offensive line has to step up and be better, period. Now, I know Gunner's catching a lot of hell tonight, but we got to call a spade a spade. The offensive line has been getting pushed around, and this is not the Georgia standard. Going back from Matt Stinchcomb, going back to when my godfather Clarence K played for these dogs and was blocking for Herschel back in the day. This is not the Georgia standard on this offensive line. We've got to get a little bit tougher, and, our depth has to get a little bit more experience. But now, Gunner, on the other hand, has to be more decisive with the football. I understand that you're cautious with the football, but you got to let it go when you see it. The difference between he and Ryan Puglisi is Puglisi's going to shoot. Puglisi's a gunslinger. Now, everybody's talking about the high school level, about the competition that these guys played. Okay, it is what it is. They're in college now. Stop comparing his high school days to now. If he can't figure this out by now, and Gunner has been in this program for this long, he got to sit on the bench. I know I'm going to piss people off when I say it, but it is what it is. I root for Gunner because he is the starter, but Ryan Puglisi is my guy. I'm going to tell you that now. I watched him in college, and if you look at that release, BA, The closest thing that you have to a young Dan Marino when he was at Pitt throwing the football is what you got in Puglisi. We just have to give, and a lot of people give Mike Bobo a lot of grief, but here's the thing. How can we throw the ball downfield if our O-line doesn't block? And he's called plays to where even if it was vanilla today, you saw guys open. Gunner just didn't hit them. Now, next week, Gunner has to step up and hit these guys and has to play better. Not just using his legs, but he's got to be able to use his arm, because if Tennessee's front seven gets home, you're going to have to be able to pass the football down the field. And I love that we won, but the best part about the night, Florida lost, BA, and they lost in their house.
I love it, man. I love it. I love it. Great phone call, Ryan. I appreciate you being here. And you better believe we are going to have some fun at the expense of, as I like to call them, those lousy, stinking Gators. But, Jeff, let me bring you back in on what Ryan was just saying, and then we'll let you get ready to go after that. When Rodrigo Blankenship was here earlier, I asked him, is it fair to say that Gunner Stockton did not look comfortable today? Rodrigo said he thought that was a fair description. I think the question that hangs in the air, and Ryan's words help further this discussion, was Gunner not comfortable because of something related to his own performance, or was he not comfortable because of the performance of the offensive line? I don't know that we can say that for sure right now, but one way or another, that was not a comfortable-looking Gunner Stockton, and there's at least some chance the lack of solid protection up front may have played some role in that. What do you think?
Yeah, Brandon, I think that's the way you need to look at that. No quarterback's really going to be comfortable when they don't have a clean pocket. That was a porous offensive line. But we didn't see Juan Gaston today, of course. We didn't see Ernest Green. We didn't see Daniel Calhoun today either. So you saw, I don't know if you noticed this, but I saw Mike Ooney kicked out and playing some tackle today. I don't know if we'd ever kind of forecasted that coming. Right. They're definitely shuffling. You know, Brandon, everybody's trying to find their best five, their best six. I don't think Drew Bobo is playing his best football right now at center. So you've got to figure out. I think Monroe Freeling is kind of doing all right now. If you had to sit there and think which offensive linemen are really, grading out well, playing winning football through 2 games. But I think Georgia's really trying to find their best five. And I think when you take Green out, Brandon, and then you take Calhoun out, a guy that played a lot last week, and you take Gaston out, I think that's some of the triage here. Everybody's going to point the quarterback, and I know you've got a handy-dandy calculator that you're going to look at 34 attempts for Gunner, and I believe it's only 227 yards. That's far below the BA standard in yards per attempt that we've heard about for so many years. But you're going to make Gunner comfortable by running the football and giving him time to throw. And I think the main thing the fan base is wondering about right now, and I think it's fair for them to wonder about, is they're just not taking those shots downfield. Vertical passing game, play action passing game, you're just not seeing a lot of that right.
All right, Jeff, great stuff. Can't wait to read everything from you about your experience, and obviously a lot coming up this week. Georgia getting ready to go on the road. Thanks for being here as part of our DawgNation Postgame Call-In Show live from the UGA Bookstore. We certainly appreciate that.
Hey, Brandon, take it easy, man. Good luck with that player of the game stuff. I can't wait to see how you resolve it.
Well, speaking of that, and Jeff, thank you very much. I made my case for Chauncey Bowens a little earlier. Kaylee Mansell, who's going to join us in a minute to give us an update on a debacle in the Florida game. She talked about Colby Young. I think it's Chauncey Bowens. Let's let Georgia coach Kirby Smart settle this. Coach, what did you see from Chauncey Bowens today? Let's hear Kirby on that.
Really physical. I thought he got yards after contact. He was running violently. He's got really good power in his lower body. He runs behind his pads. You know, we've noticed that all camp. He's broken a lot of tackles. I thought he had a little more burst and spring in his step today and got yards after contact, which is big for us.
Good stuff there from Kirby Smart. Let's get ready to go back to the phones here. We're going to roll through as many as we can. We got a few more minutes here. Take a couple more phone calls. We're going to show you some more highlights before we're done. We'll hear from both Kirby and Gunner again before we're done, and then we're going to get ready to wrap it up after that. So fast and furious here over the next few minutes. In fact, let's get ready to go back right now and speak to Brian in Tennessee. Brian, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame Show. Brian, we're coming up to your state, or at least the state you live in now, next week, and boy, it's got to be better then than it was today, does it not?
Yeah, I hope so. Go Dogs. Hey, my thing I got is with
Go Dogs indeed.
Offensive line. We got we got an offensive line at Georgia that average over 300 pounds, and we can't push the ball in from the 1 yard line on Austin Peay. Something's wrong. I live in Clarksville. This is where Austin Peay is based out of, and they play like schools that you never heard of, and they run all over them. And you're the Georgia Bulldogs, and you can't score from the 1 yard line on Austin Peay. And we need to get that passing attack ramped up. That 9 and 3 people up throwing screen passes is not going to cut it in the SEC.
Hey, I appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much, and appreciate your words on that today, Brian. And, yeah, obviously the end of the first half, as I joked with Rodrigo Blankenship a little earlier when Hot Rod was with us, as someone who loves Georgia football and loves every minute between the hedges, that was a pretty miserable experience seeing the half come to an end that way, weather delay right after that. What exactly did happen during that moment? This is what Kirby Smart said on that topic just a couple of moments ago.
Most of the fact we didn't score. I mean, which play, I guess you're asking? There was like 5 plays that were within inches, right? So, like, they did an unbelievable job managing the clock with 1 timeout to get it there. And then I forget what play got us to that spot, but then it was 3 plays where we actually had either a run or a pass completion that didn't get in. So, like, any one of those gets in, or, I mean, they actually helped us by calling a timeout because we're going to clock it and we're going to lose a down. They call timeout, they give us another down. And we get the extra down, and we don't cash it in. And then we get another down because of a penalty, and we don't cash it in, and we don't cash it in. You know, looking back, I probably wish that we would have ran the ball earlier, but the thought was that you don't run it when you don't have a timeout, you know, until the end, and we didn't have a timeout. So it was disappointing in. Give them credit, and best part is it created a little adversity for us. So I'm glad we had some.
So interesting analysis from Kirby Smart. Back to the phones we go. How about Justin in Greenville? Justin, you're next up on our DawgNation Postgame show. We're live at the UGA Bookstore where the apparel looks great. Everybody's had a good time. Justin, maybe not always fun for Georgia fans during the game today, though. What did you think about it?
I mean, in my opinion, if Gunner's going to have a rough day, or the team in general, I'd rather it happen against Austin Peay versus Tennessee next week. Maybe we bounce back. Kirby has a fire in him that he hasn't really had in the last 2 years. So while it was kind of a not so fun game to watch, we still came out with a win. We didn't lose like Florida did to somebody that they had no business to losing to. Almost Clemson lost too. They were struggling against Troy for a good half. So, I mean, basically we struggled today, but hey, we still won fair and square. And I'd rather have it happen week 2 versus week 3 against Tennessee.
I think you bring up a great point. I think it's great context for the discussion, which is, hey, you could be where Florida is today and having lost. Clemson was struggling mightily with Troy. Obviously, very different context for that. And as you touch on, okay, not the best day for Gunner overall, but the Georgia running game certainly found a spark that it probably did not have last week, and that is unquestionably a positive, I would say. I don't think there's any doubt about that. What did Gunner Stockton think about the Georgia running game? This is him in his own words from just after the game.
Yeah, I think we ran the ball when we needed to in the second half, but we'll have to look at it and see what we need to get better at.
Why aren't y'all explosive right now the way maybe you'd like to be?
Yeah, I don't really know why right now. I have to watch the tape and see how it is, but
is that frustrating?
Yeah, you always want to be explosive. So explosives really impact the game.
So that's Gunner Stockton, both an evaluation what his team did on the ground, but also kind of a lack of explosive plays to the offense in the very matter-of-fact style that we've come to expect from Stockton when it comes to these post-game descriptions. We're going to take one more final caller. We're going to hear from Kaylee Mansell about what was apparently a wild situation in Gainesville. Florida suffers an upset loss. We'll give you a chance to see the top highlights and the key moments from the win today against Austin Peay. So squeezing all of that in, let's get Brandon and Calhoun as our last caller tonight on the DawgNation Postgame Call-In Show live here from the UGA Bookstore. Brandon, thanks for being here. How about them Dogs? What did you think about the game we all just saw?
Yes, sir. How about them Dogs?
It's good to talk with you, BA. Main thing I seen.
You too.
Main thing I seen. I don't know if it goes on Bobo or the offensive line, but just it seemed like a lot of vanilla play calling, predictable play calling, like the screen plays. I don't think that's going to beat Tennessee next week, so I'm hopeful to see, them improve on that as the week goes forward, and thank you for taking my call.
Thank you so much for being here. I certainly appreciate that, Brandon. I think you're right. It is obviously true that Georgia needs to play better against Tennessee than it certainly needs to play better against Tennessee than it did against Austin Peay. We've also seen moments in which that has happened. And so, look, I know that people feel like sometimes Georgia gets a little screen happy in the offense, and I understand why they feel that way. But that, to the big-bodied guys they have, and obviously the speedy Zachariah Branch, plus hopefully a few more well-placed deep shots, which I do think they'll try. I do think that can be a recipe along with what we hope is a robust running game for a chance to be much more successful there. So I think it's a great call. I'm glad to have you weigh in the way that you did. All right, now, let's get ready to go cruising around the SEC, courtesy of Royal Caribbean. Let's bring in Kaylee Mansell. Wild day in the SEC where Ole Miss had its struggles with Kentucky. There was a back-and-forth affair between Missouri and Kansas in the border war. But the story for now is the fact that Florida, as a 17.5-point favorite, has been upset in the swamp. Now, it's about to get incredibly difficult. Florida's going to play LSU and Miami and a lot of these teams that were very impressive in week one. But against the South Florida Bulls, today apparently Florida had all it can handle too. And, by the way, there was even more embarrassing stuff going on. So by all means, Kaylee, I've been waiting for this ever since you tipped me off to it because I was unaware. Tell us what goes down here.
I am just so excited that I get to break this news to you. I figured somebody in the comments may have, but it started with 2 minutes and 14 seconds left on the clock. USF's making their crucial drive down the field. Florida gets a big stop, and then all of a sudden, Spitgate Part 2 happens. Kid gets ejected, 15-yard penalty, and that would ultimately go on to get the drive going for them to come down and kick the field goal. I know that you guys can't see it, but I wanted Brandon to be able to see it in real time. He's going to spit twice, by the way. So
that is
watch
so
him there.
Gross.
There's one.
Gosh, I would not want somebody in orange and blue standing that close to me. That's breathing my air. That's disgusting.
Such a critical part of the game, and especially considering what we saw on Thursday and the general reaction to that. That absolutely cannot happen, and I have seen videos of Fire Billy chants breaking out in the stadium following that game.
So good to know things are as happy as ever down in Gainesville, Florida right now. So as many of our callers have said tonight, and they're right to say it this way, that is proper context. Boy, what a tough situation for Florida. We love to see that. It's almost like you want to do a little microphone cheers on that one.
Oh, yeah.
A little microphone cheers. I feel like you got to do something to celebrate the misery of the Florida Gators because we cannot. Wasn't a great day for Georgia, but it's better than that.
It certainly makes you feel better about it. And I was talking with Connor Riley about this earlier. Like, Georgia fans were, of course, tuned into this game, not happy about it. You have every single right to be. However, from a national perspective, watching what happened with Florida, watching what was going down with Clemson makes it a little bit better because I feel like people weren't paying as much attention to what was happening with Georgia because at least they had a clear lead for all of the games. So to see something like that happen and to know that Florida just has an absolutely brutal 7-game stretch and for them to lose that game, that narrative's not going to matter anymore moving forward. That's just, there's no excuse for that.
No, I think that's exactly right. Kaylee, great stuff. Thanks for being here as we're cruising around the SEC, courtesy of Royal Caribbean.
Of course.
And by the way, speaking of that, your chance to be a part of a great Royal Caribbean cruise vacation, that comes your way here. Jessica Slater, terrific travel advisor. She can tell you all about it. You can give her a call, 770-718-9147. That's 770-718-9147. You can also email her, jslater@dreamvacations.com. Whether it's Icon of the Seas, the brand new Star of the Seas, a ship we love, Utopia of the Seas. That's the ship for our DawgNation cruise. You get all of that with Royal Caribbean, and Jessica Slater, a wonderful travel advisor, can tell you all about it. So make sure you reach out and contact her today. All right, we're going to get ready to wrap things up from the UGA Bookstore. First of all, big thanks to everybody at the UGA Bookstore. A tough day for them. They got rain and people coming in and out. No telling, wet feet all over the floors here. But you know what? The UGA apparel looked great. A lot of folks getting decked out and looking good for the big season that's on its way. So if you are going to be in Athens, make sure you stop by here and see all that for yourself. Get the Peter Millar, the On Reserve, the Nike Coaches gear, all of that. You can get that here from the UGA Bookstore or the Specialized Custom Shop, where you can get the NIL-style jerseys, all of that from the UGA Bookstore. You can get that. And just like our guy Hot Rod was signing autographs here, Buck Bellew before that, former and current Georgia Stars doing that each and every Saturday home game too. All right. As we get ready to say goodbye to you now, let's go back and relive one more time some of the big highlights from this game today and the key moments that led to what we're talking about with the 28-6 Georgia win. And, of course, for Georgia on that, it was the first drive of the game where Nate Frazier coughed it up. An early turnover had thwarted what had a chance to be a Georgia scoring drive. And at that point, Georgia fans getting just a little bit nervous. But they would not have to stay nervous for long because Chauncey Bowens, big day for him. We thought he should have been player of the game. He had 2 touchdowns. That was the first. Then on defense, on third down, a big weapon for Georgia, Chris Cole. We think he's going to be used outside a lot. Came off that outside edge, got a sack. And at that point, Georgia was rolling. And, of course, getting some young players involved early in the game, too, including the freshman Talon Taylor, wide receiver. His first catch of his Georgia career happened very early in this game. Of course, shortly after fumbling, Nate Frazier would get redemption. He would find the end zone, one of 4 rushing scores on the day for Georgia. At that point, Georgia was up 14-0. Then, how about Ellis Robinson? We called for Robinson to get an interception. He was highlighted earlier this week by Georgia. Robinson does just that. Kirby says he wants more turnovers. We think Robinson may be the guy that's able to provide that. Georgia, unfortunately, though, having a hard time today getting that passing game going. Probably a lot that Gunnar Stockton could go back and look at again and maybe sharpen up before you get ready to play Tennessee next Saturday. Defense, maybe less of that, though. C.J. Allen, one of many Georgia defenders, making big plays all day long. And that was certainly something that you loved. What you did not love, though, is what happens for Georgia near its goal line. Scoring opportunity at the end of the first half. A couple of rushing plays get stuffed. A couple of passing plays don't find the end zone. Kirby Smart was hot about all of that. But the first half would run out on Georgia, not only not getting the touchdown, not getting any points at all. And to make matters worse, you had the weather delay that came up after that. Long delay, rained very hard, but eventually we got back to football. For a while, I wasn't sure if we would. We did, and when we did, big scoring drive for Georgia, capped off by the second score of the day for Chauncey Bowens. Set the tone for what would be a much easier second half for Georgia than the first half had been. But it wasn't without its faults, though, because the second Georgia fumble and the second Georgia turnover occurred, too, this time coming because of London Humphreys. Georgia defense drew the cheers from the crowd that were still in the stands by getting a big stop at the goal line. The Dogs defense stout all day long. Then Nate Frazier got another touchdown, erasing the memory of his earlier fumble. And Georgia had some opportunity to celebrate as it wins today over Austin Peay 28-6. We've also got Mississippi State up right now on Arizona State. Arizona State coming in as number 12 team in the country. 17-0 is that score. So we're going to be watching all of that as we see a lot of SEC teams hosting Power 4 non-conference opponents, and the league seems to be doing pretty well in those games here right now, including what would be, to the eyes of some, a pretty big shock if Miss State were to hold on there against a much higher-ranked Arizona State team. Thank you for being with us for our DawgNation postgame call-in show. I actually think my voice got better as the show went on. It was pretty bad to start. We, I think, settled into something after a while, although I'm sure I'm about to be as hoarse as can be once we're off the air. But nonetheless, we appreciate that. If you missed part of it, you're seeing it live, you want to go back and rewatch from the beginning, you can do that. Of course, stay close to DawgNation.com, all the stories from the game. Then I'll see you Monday morning for DawgNation Daily, back in the friendly confines of our DawgNation World Headquarters studios. Next Saturday's a big one. Get your game face on. Be ready for it. DawgNation Invasion in Knoxville on the Tennessee River, the Paddle Wheel Riverboat, and then after that, another chance to celebrate on Rocky Top, something that Georgia has gotten very used to doing in the Kirby Smart era, dating all the way back to 2017 when it comes to that. Thank you for being here. Georgia gets a win 28-6. We'll see you next week, the same time, or roundabout the same time, for our DawgNation postgame show live from Neyland Stadium next Saturday. Here tonight, saying goodbye to you from the UGA Bookstore. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.